friends, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope that you're doing great. Today is Friday evening. It's getting late. It's about 9:45, and I wanted to just share something a little bit more lighthearted, not necessarily my opinions. It's an article that I read. It's called Lady Etiquette Rules That Show You Are a High-Class Woman. So I thought that caught my attention because do I have etiquette? Do I have good classy etiquette? Am I a high-class woman? Now, you guys all know, if you've been watching me for a while, I'm a pretty down-to-earth person. I don't wear flashy clothes here. Do I wear nice clothes out? I try to. But I'm not one who really cares what other people think of me, but I do care about how I dress and look because I like to look presentable. I like to make sure I'm treating others kindly. But what part of this article would actually teach me something about myself? Are there areas that I could learn from? So some women might take offense by this. Please don't. This is just a fun topic, and what I might agree with, you might not. And that's because that's your opinion. And so I just wanted to share. Okay, so you're going to see the reflection of the computer on my glasses, and I'm really sorry, but I can't read without my glasses. So if you want to act, look, and feel like a high-class lady, it's important to develop a sense of what is good and appropriate in every situation. Now, these are things that I grew up with. These are things that, my mother said, no, you can't do that. My granny taught me a lot of stuff. And, my granny, I think, she's the one from Missouri, and I think she just took such a great pride in who she was, and people respected her. So at least I did. Now, I'm not telling you to always follow these lady rules, because there will be instances where it's like, it's not going to work today, or that particular situation, you're going to break that code because of the stressors in our environment, the stressors of certain individuals that can kind of trigger people. So let's see. So they say there are some things that are so basic, so primary, but it's essential for every self-respecting lady, and that they should know them. Let's see. It says, what are some of the tips? People will start to see you differently. You will start to value yourself more. And kindness to other people will bring kindness back to you. Have you ever noticed that, you smile at somebody and you say, hey, how are you? Or you see somebody you don't even know and you say, hey, how are you? How's your day going? Do you ever watch how their smile changes? That's elegance. That's something, that's common courtesy too. And it just reflects your personality. Now, I know, living in New Hampshire, here in my town, I could be walking down the street and I could say hi to somebody, because I say hi to everybody, and they don't respond. And so I have to kind of stop and think that, well, maybe they're having a bad day, their mind was elsewhere, or maybe they're not sociable people. And is that a reflection of me? No, because if I'm being sociable, if they don't like it, they'll tell me to shut up. And nobody's ever told me to shut up. And maybe that's a bad thing. I just like to talk. So anyways, we'll go on. But saying hi to somebody, and then if they see that and they smile, it's wonderful. Okay, now what does etiquette mean? The British School of Etiquette defines etiquette as an unwritten code of behaviors. It's designed to ease social interactions in both our personal and business lives. Simply speaking, people refer to etiquette rules to know how they should behave in a particular situation in order to avoid misconceptions and to feel more adequate in a social setting. And we see this in the movies, but also the kings and queens and how they have to wear dresses and all. I don't have places to go where I need to wear a ball gown. And would I like to someday? But my life is very basic. It's very country. And that doesn't mean I don't enjoy dressing up, because I do. But my lifestyle is not as such. But that does not mean we cannot show grace and kindness and lady etiquette. It's a little bit different than regular social etiquette. So lady etiquette involves general ladylike behavior, like how to stand, how to sit, how to walk. and personal rules that we create for ourselves that help a lady protect, exercise, and show respect to herself as well as to others. And I have shared before that if we love ourselves, we have an easier time loving others. So it goes with respecting and caring and loving. It's not just manners. Modern ladies, the etiquette for today is more than knowing how to keep an elegant posture or what to say in social chatter. I don't know anybody who knows how to do that. It's anything that we talk about in social settings that we don't know what to say. It's usually about the weather. And I'm not one that's like that. I just kind of like if I meet you, it's like, hey, how's it going? How's the family? How's that? Because I am interested in who you are. So things like self-worth, self-love, kindness, courtesy, and personal space limits are just as important today. And it's beautiful. So even though when I'm talking to somebody and I'm interested in them, they don't have to say anything. They may say, I'd rather not talk about that. And that's very graceful on their part. And so if somebody tells you, I'd rather not share that, you just sit back and say, not a problem. We have to respect each other's boundaries if we want our own boundaries to be respected. So what is a classy lady? Well, a classy lady is a woman who has undeniable dignity and sophistication in anything she does. She knows how to navigate life with elegance and moderation while staying true to her personal protocol, the lady rules that she's developed for herself. You may recognize classy women by noticing those who lift themselves up, but not only themselves, but others too. They're not snooty. They're not better than anybody else, but they see value in other people. So if they see somebody wearing a lovely dress that they like, they say, hey, I like your dress. Simply saying something as complimentary as that builds their spirit. You might come across somebody that you knew before that has lost a lot of weight and just said, wow, you look great. That kind of stuff, whether male or female, that's really important to say, most especially if you know that they've been trying to lose weight. That is important because our society is all about don't say anything, you might offend them. And this isn't about trying to offend people. This is about if somebody is trying to lose weight, they're really working hard at it. And if somebody notices that effort, do you know how well that makes them feel? And that is gracious, no matter who says it, whether it's male or female. I don't know, we're talking about classy women, but men can be classy too. So, how can you become a high-class woman yourself? Okay, I gotta take a drink. Water. So this is one is really important to me. Be punctual. When you have an appointment, show up on time, if not early. If you promise somebody that you're going to be at their house at a certain time, show up. If you're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late, give a call. But don't show up 2 to 3 hours later because it's like, I guess they forgot me. And so for myself, I tend to just start doing other things because they didn't, something happened. But it does reflect on their behavior. So if you're one who's always late, it reflects on your character. And if you have to go somewhere where there's a business, it's really important to show respect. And, I used to do a lot of alterations, and most people showed up on time. But there was always those few who would not show up. And I'm like, so they wouldn't show up not for 15 minutes. Sometimes they'd be an hour late. And then they would call and say, hey, I'm running late. Is it okay? And I'm like, no, it's not. Or someone will just show up. And it's like, hey, I've got other things to do. I couldn't wait for you. So what I did, and I don't know if this was classy or just business, I finally said, if you're going to be more than 15 minutes late, I have to cancel your appointment, and there's a $50 cancellation fee. That was fine for most people. But the few that were always late, that didn't go over so well. But the thing is, my time is worth something, and a classy woman values her time. And it's important to speak up and just say, no, I've got things to do. So be on time. When you arrive late at a meeting or an event or an appointment, you promote a negative perception of your personality and suggest you do not value the person or the event at all. So those who are late, that's a reflection on you. I don't like being late. Now, sometimes you might be stuck in traffic or there's an accident that delays you. Those are exceptions to the rule. But because we all have cell phones, that's another topic, but we all have cell phones, so you can pick up your phone and call your destination and say, listen, there is a traffic jam, and most of these things are already on the news. You can just say, I don't know how long it's going to be. Sometimes it just gets right through. But the point is, an elegant or a classy lady will make that phone call, but generally speaking, they will not be late. And I have to say, one of the other things is, if you're going to be late once, don't make it a habit that you're going to be always late, because they're never going to believe that excuse. Let's see. Don't forget that people spend their time and energy creating that event or party or preparing for your arrival, whether it's an appointment for like coming here for alterations and stuff. I've set aside special time for you so that my whole attention can be addressed for you and your needs. So anytime you have an appointment with somebody, respect that time, and that's a classy way of handling your time as well as theirs with respect. Set a lady rule and be that high-class lady who is never late. And it says here, unless it's a first date. I don't buy that. And I think that's an old rule, but tell me, write it down in the comments. Are you one, if you're dating and it's a first date, do you purposely arrive late? I find it rude. So, because I'm one who likes to be prompt. So I'd be curious, but I never liked that rule. And somebody told me, you need to, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would you make somebody late? There was somebody that was late for me once, and I'm just like, no, I don't have to do this. So keep your words. If you make a promise to somebody, follow through. If you say to somebody, hey, I'm going to be around Saturday. Can I give you a call so we can kind of catch up? Yeah. Well, if you don't keep your word and they're hanging around, that's kind of rude. If you say you're going to do something for somebody, say somebody is out and they have a medical procedure and stuff, and you promise to make meals, but you never show up, that's a reflection of you, not the other person. Even though you inconvenienced them, they learned that they cannot depend on you. Now, also, another area of promises are with your debts. So it's a very classy woman who will pay her debts on time, make sure that she doesn't go into debt. And please understand, we all go through hard times, and sometimes we can't pay, but the best thing to do in those instances is to call your creditor and tell them what's going on. Some are not so kind and forgiving, but you might find that you have your extended grace if you are respectful and you're not always late. Maybe it's a one-time thing. But if you make a commitment for a house loan, a car loan, and a few other things like that, it is really important to honor those obligations. And I think I said, in this time, our economy is really wonked out. People's rents went up crazy, so it's like, how do they pay for everything? So it's really complicated things for people. So I can't tell you how to handle that other than try to find ways to kind of offset that. But don't go into further debt while you're trying to resolve the complications of our economy. So that was keeping your word. Be gracious. A true lady stands out by being gracious. A queen of all lady rules is to always treat others in the way you expect to be treated. Now, this is a biblical standard, and also it's not just for women, it's for men too. We need to respect one another. If you say you're going to do something, honor that. Look to be kind and generous and behave in a positive manner with those around you. If you see that you could help somebody, say, I'm just going to throw some weird stuff out there. You see something on the floor at the store, just pick it up and put it on the shelf. because you know what's going to happen? Somebody's going to kick it. I've seen a lot of that happen. I'm like, just pick it up. So, I end up bending down, and my back's not great, so I'll end up picking up what other people might kick around. But that's not to make me look better. It's just that we as a society don't have to trash stores. We don't have to be unkind. So if there's something that other people are being disrespectful, just show a little grace and pick things up. It says something about you. Nobody has to see it. God sees it. But that is something that shows a classy woman who is willing to do that kind of thing. And see, what I'm getting at is we're not high and mighty people. We are gracious towards each other. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that while we're being gracious and we're showing courtesies, that does not mean to allow people to step all over you. And I think that is really important to know, because a lot of women have a tendency to be very giving and to always want to do for others. And I'm that person, but I have learned over the few years that I don't have to if I am being mistreated. And I think it's important that you value yourself and realize that if somebody's mistreating you, you can stand up and say, no, stop. Stop that right now. I don't have to take that. Just because somebody is a very giving and loving person, always willing to do things for you, the moment you start mistreating them, that person does not have to be gracious and ladylike the way you expect them. It's sort of like those who say, well, Christians should behave a certain way and they should tolerate this stuff. No. Christianity and ladiness is the same thing. We do not have to be abused. And God does not desire that for men or women. We need to honor and respect one another. And if somebody is going to disrespect us, even as a lady, you can still show grace by not allowing it to happen. You say no. You speak up, and when our community, show as much grace as possible, unless the situation is where people are yelling at you. Raise your voice to make them know that this is not appropriate. People don't like that, but I feel better because it's like you have to have personal boundaries. I like this rule. I've always believed in this rule, and it is to say thank you, not just for ladies, but for men too. If somebody goes out of their way to do something kind, say thank you. If you go and you have an appointment afterwards, say thank you for their time. I know you might be paying for it. Even when people come here, they're paying for my time. But to say thank you, it just shows that they may want to do more for you. Now, generally speaking, they will just do their job, but it is always kind to say thank you. Having manners and learning etiquette styles always starts with saying thank you. People constantly put effort into something that affects you, serves you, and it's a beautiful rule that we thank them for it, even in the smallest things that they've done for you. Try to look adequate for the setting. Now, this might get some controversy, and I'm not here judging anybody on how they dress or anything like that. But it says overdressing, wearing too much makeup, or wearing too many jewelry pieces can make you look like you're trying too hard. It can also be how you dress if you're not modest with your dressing. That's where I think people are going to be upset, because I've even been told by one of my daughters, I said, you can't judge a person by the way they dress. I said, no, you can't judge them by that. But if you want people to respect you and you want their eyes to focus on your eyes, dressing appropriately keeps their eyes focused where it needs to be. And that's in reference to male and female relationships. And that doesn't mean we can't dress in a way that's pleasing to our husband in our private life or when we go out to dinner for ourselves. But when you're going someplace like a business situation and stuff, it's really kind to dress appropriately. So if you don't like that idea, that's okay. I'm not saying you're not a classy lady, but I'm just saying those are some things that kind of make you look presentable and respectable. See, now a high-class lady doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone, and that's where the controversy comes with, I can wear whatever I want. You can. You really can't. But she already knows that she's already worth something. She doesn't have to dress for attention. She dresses for style. She dresses with class. And I'm not saying my little country attire here with thermals and a vest. It's cold outside. That doesn't mean that it's high class attire, because all my videos, you see me for who I am that day. But most of the time it's in flannels from the cold seasons, or I'm working out in the garden and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes in the summer I'm going to be wearing tank tops because of the temperature, but I'm not in a position at that point where I'm just working, okay? And when I work and it's warm outside, I'm not going to wear a parka, because that's not classy. But basically, when you're out in public, show grace, show respect to others, and dress so that you are perceived as respected. If you value yourself, you can easily look your best by wearing adequate clothing, well-trimmed nails, and just the right amount of accessories. Less is always more, they say. Plus, it's a safe way to look elegant and not overdone on any occasion. You do what makes you comfortable, and the way I look at it is I try to dress so that I feel pretty, I feel presentable. And even before I go to a place where I know I will be encountering men or something like that, or a man because of whatever, I ask my husband, I said, is this appropriate? I mean, are you okay with me going out of the house like this? And in the summertime, it might be my shoulders will be showing and stuff, but I try to make sure everything is appropriate. He goes, no, I'm fine with that. And that's what I go for. But the other thing is, by going through my husband, he might say, you might want to change that. And he's not being mean to me. He is just basically, and he tells me why. It's not that he's offended by it, but he explains why. Because sometimes you don't even realize it. Women's clothing are thinner than men's. And so sometimes you might not know that your bra might be shown through your shirt. He knows that I don't like to present myself in that manner, so he's willing to tell me that. So that may not be your style. So that's what I'm saying. Please don't take offense by that. That's just the way I am, and I actually like his feedback, because I find that if he gives me constructive feedback, that means he respects me for who I am. That's not the same case for every woman in the world and their relationships, and many relationships have broken up because of how people have treated them. And I'm sorry, but there are some real mean people out there treating their spouses horribly. So let's stop that too. This one I totally agree with. It's put your smartphone down. If you are in a meeting, if you are visiting somebody, any of that, it's really important to put your phone down, because the question comes up as, who's more important here, that phone or the people you are with? Because are you bored? If you don't want to be here, then let me know. It's like, you can go. You don't have to stay. I thought you might like to spend time together. And even if I go somewhere else and they keep looking at their phone, I'm just like, we're going to get going now, because it tells me they're not really interested in my company. That might not be intended. Please hear that. I realize that people might not realize that that's how it's coming across, so they don't really intend to do that, but it can be rude. Now, if you are a person who's on call, or your job, you might have overtime on the weekend and your boss might call you or something like that, those are exceptions to the rule, and you just let people know and you put it in your pocket so you can hear the vibration or feel the vibration or whatever it is without interrupting your social time. Our social time has decreased so much over the years that we don't get together anymore. So when we do, it should be special. We should be able to enjoy each other's time without the world coming right in. So put your phones out. Now, this is all because of the transformation of the cell phones. And I'm not a big cell phone user. I don't like how it feels. I always have to have it on speakerphone because it's just something about the phone. I don't text. And that's me. That's my husband texts, everybody else texts. I just don't like it. Maybe it's because I like to talk a lot. But, just one finger typing is not my style. I grew up, I learned how to type with two hands on the computer, and that's my preference. Does that make you a bad person because you like to text? No, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is here, when we are socializing, that's not the time to start using our phones, unless you're talking to somebody, can I send this to you? Any of that. Now, sometimes a lot of moms and grandparents like to show pictures of their grandchildren, and use that in moderation, because not everybody wants to see a photo album on your camera or on your phone. But I think it's exciting to show our family with others because we're excited. We love our families. But there comes a time where there's only so much. And I know somebody who used to come over and just show me picture after picture. And it's like, by the time she was done, it was time for her to go. So I'm like, that was fun. So it becomes an offensive habit. So just be mindful of that. Let's see. This is one of the basic lady rules to always remember, and it's really for businesses. At any gathering, meeting, or event, leave your smartphone aside. Turn it off, whatever you have to do. It says a lot about you, including the fact that you value people more than a piece of technology. Folks, we're only here one day at a time. If you go to a social gathering, maybe it's a business meeting, but you might be gathering with friends or families and stuff like that. If your phone is more important, you might not have an opportunity to spend time with people that really care about you. And if you're always on your phone and, the next day they're not around, I'm not sure how you would feel about that. Maybe it won't make any difference. Maybe you're on the phone because you didn't want to be there. That's really a reflection of who you are. So the question is, wait, what if the friends are doing this to me? And always on their phone. It's rude. But in that case, you can ask them if they're bored. Are you bored with me? Do you have something important? Do you have someplace to go? It should give them the hint that what they're doing is rude. Not everybody reads that, but it is something that you could say. And that's a gracious way of asking them. Now, it goes into alcohol. Now, I'm not one to drink. I'm not going to say we have no alcohol in the house, because I do use it for tinctures and medicines and stuff like that. I use it holistically. But I also have liqueurs and I have some wine. And my wine goes bad before I finish a bottle, even a small bottle. I just don't use it. I might try it. I'm just not drawn to it. And I feel very blessed. And the reason I say that is on my dad's side, there are some alcoholics. And, the struggle is real for them. One of my brothers he's graduated from AA, and I'm so proud of him because he hasn't had a drink in a couple of years. But we were talking maybe a few months ago, and he says, Laura, sometimes it is so hard. He says, when I'm having a hard time or his health is bothering him, and he says, I just have a hard time because it's so easy to go back. So if you are in a social setting and you know that somebody is struggling, trying to no longer be an alcoholic, they'll always be an alcoholic is what they tell you. Please be kind. Even coming to my house, I would put all of it out of sight so that it's not something that they're drawn to. Because we don't want to put temptation in the face of their hardship, because that's grace. That's showing them that you value them. Also, if you enjoy alcohol, I know a few couples that they just sit down at the end of the day on their couch and either have wine or a bottle of beer and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes they get together with their friends and that's what they do. So do I find that to be offensive? No, I don't. But if you drink to excess, one of the things that you're going to find is that you become somebody that you're not normally at. And even though you might not be an alcoholic, you can be feeling more free to say things that are not appropriate. So it's just something to keep in mind. One of it says, drink as much as you need to have a little fun, but not as much for you to start talking nonsense or stagger around the room. So it's just something to think about. Now that's an area I don't have to worry about. But other people do. Like I said, I have a sibling who struggles there. So it's all about balance of respecting one another. Be attentive to those around you and yourself. Be a high-class lady by respecting yourself, other people, and your surroundings. If you see that somebody is down, you know what, sometimes we're waiting for an appointment and we're sitting out in the waiting room. Sometimes you see somebody, they're just kind of like down, and you know what? Just saying, hey, how's it going? And they might say it's a lousy day, whatever, and sometimes they don't want to talk. But you can bring up a subject that just kind of detracts them from their thought process. And that is okay. So often we go places and everybody's head is in their phone. And but the other thing is if you're in a setting where you're by other people, don't interrupt their conversations, because that's not appropriate either. Now, I mean, sometimes people say something that's funny and I'll start giggling and then they'll talk to me and stuff like that. That's a little different, but be very careful of how you interact with other conversation, because if they're loud enough for you to hear, it's not a hush-hush type thing. But don't interrupt during conversations. Take your turn. And another thing it talks about is, that one I don't think is important. Try to not focus only on yourself. Pay attention to everyone and everything around you. And I know that sometimes this is hard, most especially those of us who stay at home. It's a lonely world to be at home all the time. So you get out and you start talking, but you have to make sure that you're allowing other people to talk. Now, a long time ago, somebody had shared with me that they never got to talk. And I'm like, really? What do you mean? They say you talk a lot. And I'm like, oh, okay. I had to step back and think about that, because it wasn't to insult me. It was just to say, this is something that bothers me. When we share something with somebody because we care about them, we hope that they will take it with grace. And because of that, I took it as I talk too much. And I do. But we need to be careful that when we talk too much, if we're that type of person, that we make sure we have time to hear both sides. The other thing that's really, really important is don't interrupt. If somebody is talking to you, don't interject with your viewpoints before they have a chance to finish, because you might find that their finishing words might be exactly what you're saying, and it is okay for them to finish that. And another thing is, sometimes people haven't seen each other in a while, and so you get together and all of a sudden you're both talking at once. Good friends do that, and it's a fun time. So there is a balance, there is a time and a place for all that kind of stuff, but show respect and learn. If somebody says, hey, I didn't get a chance to talk, and I'm more vocal about that right now too, is like, because I have learned to be quiet, to listen, and then there are times where I'm talking and I get interrupted by somebody, and I find that I just shut down because I wasn't important enough to be heard. And that is for all of us. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I am saying it's something that we can all strive for. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know if you ladies know this, but there is a certain technique to getting in and out of your car. I can't do it. I tried it once and my husband just laughed at me. Now we're getting out of Hondas, so the car is lower and stuff. When I had my Jeep, I could easily do this. So when you're in a truck type thing, it's easier to do this. But technically, the lady rules of getting out of a car, more so if you are wearing a dress. You put your legs together and you sit down on the side of the chair, and then you put your legs together, lift them up, and bring them inside. Now, I have a bad back, and I think that's why I was trying to do this the other day, and I'm like, I can't do this. And then when you leave the car, you do the same thing. You bring your legs together, bring the first leg down, and then the other one. And that is to actually show respect for yourself. So you're not exposing the world to whatever's underneath your dress. And so I'm just sharing that. I just found it interesting because I hadn't heard that a couple of weeks I heard somebody talking about it in a movie, and I just like, really? I didn't know people did that, and it's being written up on something in today's time frame, and I'm like, oh, it is a thing, I guess. Let's see. Eat elegantly. What do we mean by that? We're not talking about the table settings for like when you go to a very elegant wedding. We are talking about when we eat in social settings. And most, I mean, at least here in New Hampshire, I don't know if people have big fancy dinners and stuff. Maybe they do. We just don't know those people. But like here, we might put, if I know that we're having company, I would put fork, knife, and spoon out. That's it. But it's not about the table setting. It's about how we eat our food. So, and the first thing is don't talk while you're eating. Try not to do that. And it's really hard if you're at a restaurant and they come over to check, see how things are. And it's always after you just took a bite. It's like, do you have a moment? And so I find that hard. Now, don't chew with an open mouth. There's no reason for that. We know that you know what you're eating. We just don't need to see you chewing it. And you would think, being somebody who's worked in the hospital and nothing grosses me out, I just find that as gross. But if opening your mouth all the time, it's just kind of a uncomfortable sound. We're not living in caveman days, so don't talk with your mouth full. Use both a knife and a fork. Unless you're at home. I like that they put that in there. Unless you're at home. Do anything you want at home. But when you're eating out, use a fork and a knife. Now, if you're out and you're having a barbecue, I think we can do hands with that. I do use a fork and a knife with like the chicken, and then sometimes I won't eat corn on the cob, and that's one of my favorite ways to eat corn, unless I really know the person. Because I think eating corn on the cob is just like, it's personal. Use a napkin to clean up around your mouth while you're eating. That way, if you don't notice that something is stuck on your mouth, you've taken it away. But a lot of us who are not afraid to say, hey, you're going to have some ketchup over there, we don't mind saying that, and you just take the napkin and do the same thing. Avoid placing your personal items, like your bags, your phones, and wallets, on the dinner table. It's a distraction. Not only that, but many of those items are kind of very germy, and hopefully we've washed the table down, the dishes are clean, all that kind of stuff. And so it really doesn't need to be at the table. Unless you have a big table and it's just 4 of you and the other end is just extra space. I've been to places where people just leave that and they have whatever it is on the end of the table. And that's fine too, but don't have your purse and everything right there on the table. At church dinners we used to go to, the ladies, we would put our purse in our lap or on the floor. And now what I do, and I haven't been to a church dinner in a long time, I change my purse out so it's over my shoulder and I don't have to worry about placing it anywhere. That's an option that you could do. It's just, that's the type of purse I take if I have to run into town for something quick and I'm back. I don't want to be carrying a big purse. Let's see. Eating and chatting is perfectly fine. Just don't forget about eye contact. And my daughter used to tell me, Mom, your eye contact is so intense. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, your eye contact when you're talking to somebody is so direct. She goes, you don't break it. I'm like, yeah. She goes, it can be offensive. I'm like, well, I'll try. And so I've been trying to kind of break it, and I think there's a social acceptance of when you can break it, I guess. I haven't learned it, so I wasn't worried about it because I believe when somebody is looking at me, they're actually hearing my words and they're interested in what I'm saying, and vice versa. Wait for the host or the hostess before starting to eat. That's really important. Even our grandkids, when they help their mom set the table, if mom's not ready, if she tells them, okay, you kids can go ahead and eat, they get to start soon. But if they're waiting for everybody else, everybody waits. And that's respectful. And if the person who is hosting you is not seated, please wait for them. They've done all this work and they they need to sit down. Now, a lot of times, they just tell you to get going. But I think we need to put our foot down and say, no, we're going to wait for you because we want to. Okay, some things that make a woman elegant. It's a lot of things. However, there are a lot of other things that can make you look, feel, and act high-class, elegant women. Good taste in your clothing, your looks, accessories, your home, and even life choices. It doesn't mean you have to have the fanciest of home or clothing or any of that. It means that you take good care of your home and your clothes, and you try to have things tidy. Ability to make things beautiful with simplicity rather than complexity. My curtains are pretty simple because I don't like doing things that I just don't need it. I like casual, comfortable curtains because I change them out a lot. Basically, I have 4 seasons of curtains because I like changing them. That's in the kitchen. The living room, I don't have it that often. Gracious behavior and kind communication with others. That's a given. Ability to control her actions and emotions to stay graceful in difficult situations. That's something I'm working on, and usually I can hold back my tears, but not always. It depends on the situation. It depends on the circumstances of why I'm at an emotional state. It also depends on how I'm being treated. So if you're in the middle of something and there's a lot of dynamics going on, it's really kind of hold back. So sometimes the best thing to do is to just excuse yourself and walk away. Not everybody will see that as very kind because they might be going on their rant, but you know what? It's kind to you because you need to respect your space. Intelligence and a sharp mind. And sometimes with my brain fog, I kind of lose track and stuff. And you'll notice that in some of my videos. So I always ask, please forgive me. It's important to know that if we're prepared, we can talk intelligently. If you have an appointment, you have questions, write them down. Or if you know things, do not try to insult others, but try to educate or ask appropriate questions based on what you learned so that 2 of you can come together and kind of like, okay, how do we want to work on this? There's things that my husband and I kind of like, I tell him what I would like to have made. And so the way we respect each other is you need to ask me if you don't understand. Same thing from me. And I'll say, well, I don't understand why that won't work. And so he explains that and vice versa. That is ladylike. It's respect from both of us. And it's important. So it's okay to have intelligence, ladies. It's really kind of, I find it very appealing to be talking to other intelligent people who are kind, but not arrogant. There is a difference, and that's what makes you a graceful lady. Politeness, same thing. Just be kind. Tidy and polished looks. Now it talks about how a lady should stand. Most ladies, we stand straight, keep your shoulders relaxed, and push back a little bit. No, we're not in the military, but just kind of like hold yourself with pride when you're standing. When you have back issues like me, we can do it for so long, and it doesn't last. But you can do that, and you just hold your chin up, and just basically, it's not to impress them. It's just show how proud you are of you. But in a setting where you're around the campfire or sitting on the couch with your husband, that doesn't always. You're not going to sit with grace. You're just going to sit for comfort, okay? When you're standing, keep your belly tucked in just a little bit. First of all, it helps with your posture and keeps your spine in line. And it has nothing to do with making you look sexy and thin and all that. Although it will, that's not the purpose of it. It's to build your posture. It's hard for me because of the spine, but I still do it. And when my back gets tired, I just kind of like move a little bit. And keep your feet close together. This was something I thought was really interesting because you want to have your feet kind of like from your shoulders down. That's the distance you want your feet apart. But when you're a police officer, female police officers, they stand very different. And we were told this. I went to a class and police officers were sharing. And I'm like, really? because it comes across as very offensive, not ladylike. But you know what? As a police officer, they're not there to be lady and proper and all that kind of stuff. They're there because they need to show authority for their position, not to be arrogant and rude, but because they are always on guard every moment while they are doing their job. So what's the correct way to walk as a lady? Let's see. Again, keep your posture straight. Find the most comfortable stride width and try to keep with it. Let your arms swing at your side. I don't do that. Well, I think I do, but I don't even notice it. Decide how you want to appear. Try to radiate this mood with your walking style, but more often than not, as you walk, put a smile on your face and find joy in your day. Find something to focus on in terms of, I'm going to have a good day, I'm going to go and get this done. I hate grocery shopping, but I always smile going in. Because if I go in not happy that I have to go in there, then it shows in my posture and everything else. So life is too short. It's better to smile. They say these are not essential, but carry an umbrella everywhere you go because rain can happen everywhere. Here in New Hampshire, I don't know, maybe we're just country folk. I do have an umbrella in my car, and I do have an umbrella in my house because, I might be going somewhere where it matters, but most of the time I have a hood or a hat or whatever, and but sometimes I'd rather have an umbrella, so that's something you can do, especially if you work in a professional setting. It's important that all that happen. If you're going to a bigger formal event like a wedding, it's a good idea to spend an hour or two reading up on basic etiquette. Like, you'll want to know, is that wedding going to be formal or not? And whether it's wedding or another, like a Christmas party and stuff, and you've never been to one, you can just call somebody that is organizing it or somebody else you're going with. What's the style? What are you wearing? And that will help you know how to dress appropriately. Protect your private life from strangers, people you've never met. That is kind of essential because you don't know who they are or where they can go and share that information with others. I think the only place that you can share a little bit of that with strangers, I guess, is if you have a good relationship with your physician. But if you have other people in that room, because in some instances they might need a chaperone in there, you need to know when to say time out. Is like, I'm not talking about this. And that is okay because we need to protect our privacy. But when you're at a social gathering and people are talking and you don't know them, be very careful of what you share. If you're in social settings with many visitors, try to memorize their names. It's harder as we get older, but you can do some mind things of like, okay, that is so-and-so, and you can kind of relate their name to something that'll make you remember them. And if you're going to a party or you're invited to dinner, if any of that, you bring a host gift. And a lot of people will tell you, I don't want you to bring anything. And that I understand, because I always offer, what can I bring? Can I bring bread? Can I bring this? Can I bring that? No, I've got it all. And so I'll bring something. Maybe it won't be for the meal, but I might bring something. And they kind of like say, oh, you didn't have to do that. No, we don't. And I'm probably that same host will say, oh, you didn't have to do that. But it's a nice, kind gesture. If you get an invitation, make sure you RSVP before the date so that they can plan appropriately. They have schedules and their caters and all that kind of stuff. It's important to respond in advance. If you notice a pregnant woman, an elderly person, or anybody who's handicapped, either find a seat for them, help them along, whatever. That's just kind of showing grace. And I know there was some other things I personally wanted to share, but I can't remember it. There are so many things that we can do for one another. Having high-class etiquette and ladylike rules shows how much you respect yourself. You don't have to do whatever everybody else is doing. You don't have to wear pajamas to the grocery store. Just because that seems to be the new norm You don't have to do that. Now, I don't wear pajamas out to the store, but I'll put on a fresh pair of jeans or something. But around the house, I'll wear pajamas. If you show up, I have pajamas on. Most especially in the winter because they're warmer. Although right now I have regular slacks on. So use discretion, and when you go out, dress so that you feel beautiful. Behave so you feel beautiful. Act like you treat others the way you want to be treated. And that in itself will reflect and actually might inspire others. Remember, you are very valuable, you're respectable, and you're a one-of-a-kind person. And it's time to enjoy that. So you don't have to get all caught up in other things that everybody else is doing. Be unique to who you are. Friends, I'm going to end this because I think I talked a while. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Thank you for listening, and God bless.